Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Queensbury Planning Board meeting for Tuesday, April 27th, 2021. This is our second meeting for April, our 9th meeting for the year, and our 24th meeting under the COVID guidelines. We will be having some public hearings this evening, and I want to give people who may be observing us on the town YouTube channel a heads up for how they can participate in that. What you would do is at the proper time when that public hearing is announced, you would call area code 518-761-8225, and I will repeat that number as those items with public hearings come up. Also, I want to announce for those who are planning on perhaps public comment or other interest in certain applications, there are 3 items tonight that are not going to be heard. One is the site plan modification 8-2021, which is Fraser. That application has been withdrawn. There are 2 applications that will be tabled. One is under old business, Ron and Ruth Jameson. That item is also to be tabled. And Native Development Associates LLC, that is also going to be tabled. That is for a subdivision. And so we will process those as they come up on the agenda. But I just wanted to give people a heads up if you're awaiting those items for public comment. Those folks that are joining us in person this evening, if you would make note of the red illuminated exit lights in the case of emergency, that is the way out. If you have an electronic device, cell phone or tablet or iPad or whatever, if you would turn it off or turn the ringer off so it won't interrupt our meeting. We appreciate that. I even remembered to do mine tonight. I talked about the public hearing. Those of you that are going to be addressing the planning board from the podium, if after you speak, if you would take one of the sterilizing wipes that's beneath the top of the podium and wipe off the microphone for the next speaker, we would appreciate that. And with that, we will begin our agenda. The first section is tabled items, and the first item is Robert McCormick, Site Plan 13-2021. Laura?
Okay. So this applicant revised their application. There's still 2 porch additions. One is 110 square feet, the other is 116 square feet. And then the new project is in reference to, the other project that remains the same is a 400 square foot carport addition to the existing garage. And the new garage that would be considered the second garage has been reduced to 1,995 square feet and is to have 3 bays. The applicant did revise the site plan. As you noted, the driveway has been moved closer to the house as well as the new garage, and the variance for the size and request for the second garage has been granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, John Lapper with Joe Bianchini, the project engineer from ABD Engineering. As Laura said, we were here a couple months ago for the planning board recommendation, 2 visits to the zoning board, which resulted in a dramatically scaled down garage project. The 3 minor additions to the house are on the non-lake side, 2 small porches and a carport. What the zoning board was focusing on was the garage. This is a 4.7 acre lot, so ironically, we could have been subdivided and done a whole, a second principal dwelling, but that wasn't the direction that the applicant wanted to go. But that was justification for the variance, and the zoning board felt that it was more disturbance than necessary, a longer driveway, and mostly the size of the garage. So it was reduced from over 3,000 square feet to less than 2,000 square feet, and the whole site disturbance was reduced in kind. Pretty straightforward at this point. No development on the lake side of anything. The 3 additions are about 130 feet from the lake on the non-lake side to the house, and and again, the garage could have been a whole structure with a bathroom and bedroom. And actually, when you last saw it, it had a bathroom proposed and a well, and that's all been eliminated as well. It's for a classic car collection. You're seeing a lot of those on the lake these days, but this is a lot smaller than how it started. So Joe's here to answer any engineering questions, and
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments from members of the board?
Well, I'd like to start off in thanking your client, John, for making, I know it was a little hard process, but looking at the previous plan and you really did, you moved it down, shortened the driveway, tied in the, you know, the basketball court, and that kind of, it looks a lot more appealing, a little less evasive. Boy, but that's a long run for that leach field all the way up there at the top of that hill. Woo-wee!
it's away from the lake.
Yep. But no, thank you.
John, did I hear you say there would be no plumbing in the garage,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
I'll still ask the question. There's a note on the plan that says reported location of existing tile field.
Goes back.
Can you say anything more than reported?
Joe Bianchini with ABD Engineers. Yeah, the original, the tile field that serves the house is located way up here,
Right.
up by Route 9, so it's all uphill, it's got to be pumped up from there.
Right.
The new garage here will not have a bathroom, so we're not tying into the existing septic system tile field at all. So all the, no bathroom, there'll be no mechanical work or anything else in the garage.
Do you know how the age of the tile field?
I actually went up here in the mid-90s with the McCormick when they bought this property, and it was there then. So it's got to be from around 1990, so 20, 30 years.
Good.
Yeah,
And as far as you know, it's working fine?
it's working fine, yep.
We do have a public hearing on this application. I'll remind members of the public that are not present, that may be wanting to call in, if you wish to participate, the number to call is area code 518-761-8225, and now is the time to call if you'd like to comment on the McCormick Site Plan 13-2021. Is there anyone in the audience that wanted to comment on this application to the board? Not seeing any hands. Are there any written comments, Laura?
There are no written comments.
Okay, thank you. Other questions from members of the board? Comments, concerns? Okay. Well, we're not getting any phone calls. This is seeker type 2. The variance has been approved on 4/21. So I guess we're ready to make a motion.
Motion to approve site plan.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got to close the public hearing. Thank you, Maria. Close the public hearing, now we can entertain a motion.
You gotta get the rust off.
Yeah.
That's what you gotta do.
Maria, keep us in line.
All right, motion to approve site plan 13-2021, Robert McCormick. Per the draft provided by staff, conditioned upon the following. 1, waivers request granted. 2, the approval is valid for 1 year from the date of approval. Applicant is responsible for requesting an extension of approval before the 1-year time frame has expired if the applicant has not yet applied for a building permit or commenced significant site work. 3, adherence to the items outlined in the follow-up letter sent with this resolution, including items A through G.
Okay,
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Maria, can you call the vote for us, please?
Mr. Johnson?
Yes?
Ms. White? Yes. Ms. Schaefer?
Yes.
Ms. Hunzinger?
Yes.
Ms. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes, you're all set.
You guys want the updated version? Because you got to hand in a bunch of copies, so.
Over there, if you would, thanks.
Give you all that you can recycle. Hey,
Let's see, well, it's still got some.
I don't know what I do with mine.
hey, thank
What do I do
you.
with mine? Nothing.
It's right here.
Did you want any more of those?
Joe, you want more? Yeah. You're just gonna give them back, so.
We're in a giving mood.
77 copies.
Mine.
Sorry about that.
We just use them as day cover on the landfill, so you might as well take it.
We should.
Let's see, the next section of our agenda is old business. The first item is Ron and Ruth Jamison, site plan 21-2021. As mentioned earlier, this application is going to be tabled.
James?
And there was a public hearing scheduled for this evening, so we'll go ahead and open the public hearing, and that public hearing will remain open until this application is reheard. And I believe we have a draft tabling resolution.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Why was it tabled?
Laura?
So the application was tabled because the board expressed concern about the setback to the lake. And so they were wondering if there was alternatives to the setback and if they could work with the height requirement, that's the requirement.
And the setback was something that we had discussed as well. Sorry, Laura, I should have had you introduce it to begin
That's
with.
all right.
Any other questions or comments on the concept of tabling this? Is there a specific tabling date? Well, it'll be in the resolution, so go ahead with that.
You ready?
Yep.
Motion to table site plan 21-2021. Ron and Ruth Jamison, tabled until the June 22nd, 2021 planning board meeting with information due by May 17th, 2021.
Okay, we have a tabling motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, Maria, can you call the vote for us, please?
Ms. White? Yes. Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Hunsinger?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Deed?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes. All right. The next item, also under old business, is Paul Lorenz, site plan 26-2021. Laura?
So this application is for a 240 square foot shed, and in front of the zoning board did grant the 10 foot from the property line where a 25-foot setback is required.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, welcome back.
Good evening, Tom Jarrett with Jarrett Engineers. As Laura said, this is a 240 square foot shed on the west side of the existing building. By the way, Paul and Joan Lorenz are in the audience tonight if you have any questions for them, the owners of AutoFix. And it's a pretty straightforward application. The zoning board did grill me for hours over it, but I relented.
Well, 8 stories, that was a tough one there. I
Yeah,
glad you
that's
got
on
it
record.
pulled off.
Tom, did you pass your cost on to the Lorenz for the extra time?
Of course. The zoning board maybe trim it down to 5 stories, so it's, but anyway.
Good compromise.
Joking aside, I think this is pretty straightforward. We are providing stormwater management for this. There's no new impervious other than the building itself. It's abutting the existing pavement. It's for storage of their materials. And by the way, I will say this for both Lorenz, both boards complimented you on how you keep the site. Absolutely. So, I guess I can open up to questions if you have any.
Well, you just took our thunder away. We were gonna, since he was here, we were gonna
You
tell him how
wanted to do it
nice we,
personally.
yeah,
All right.
how we appreciate
Scratch
the
that for
holiday
a minute, and then
decorations.
Let the board.
I was gonna ask for some more square footage, see if you could put more decorations in there, keep it up. You really do a nice job on that corner, it really
Love
looks great.
Halloween.
And,
Love Halloween.
We do have a public hearing on this application. If members of the public wish to comment on this 240 square foot shed, they can call the planning board at area code 518-761-8225. And I'll ask Laura, are there any written comments?
There are no written comments.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, is there anyone in the audience that wanted to address the planning board on this application tonight? Okay, well, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing again. Then I guess we're ready for a motion.
Motion to approve site plan 26-2021, Paul Lorenz, per the draft provided by staff, conditioned upon the following. 1, waivers request granted. 2, the approval is valid for 1 year from the date of approval. Applicant is responsible for requesting an extension of approval before 1 year time frame has expired. if the applicant has not yet applied for a building permit or commenced significant site work. 3, adherence to the items outlined in the follow-up letter sent with this resolution, including items A through G.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Maria, can you call the vote for us, please?
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Hunzinger?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Deeb?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes. You're all set.
Tom, you want these?
I'll take it, sir.
You guys
Do
play-
you want just the plan, or do you want the other stuff too?
Whatever you want to give me this.
You don't need any, but,
Well, how's business been?
hey, did you play?
That's the toughest thing,
I didn't
isn't
get
it?
a text. Oh,
Hey, man.
Hey, thanks, Tom.
all right.
The next item on our agenda under old business is Peter Renzi, Site Plan 24-2021. Laura?
So this application is for a new deck totaling 770 square feet towards the shore. And at the Zoning Board of Appeals, they did grant the setback and the permeability relief. They did request additional plantings on the north side of the property. And the applicant provided you with an update of that because it was such short notice. I thought that was appropriate, at least to give you a hard copy at the meeting, and that I do have it on display on the back behind you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Nick Zegelin with Environmental Design Partnership, here on behalf of the applicant Peter Yenzi of 374 Cleverdale Road. The applicant is proposing to rebuild his existing 472 square foot deck with a new 776 square foot deck, an increase of about 304 square feet. This was before the board last Tuesday for referral to the zoning. And as Laura said, it got the variances approved by the zoning board with the addition of some additional plantings. So we prepared this extra sheet with some of those extra plantings, kind of buffering that northeastern corner of the new deck, and then more down towards that northern part of the shore there, next to the walkway, to kind of add as an additional buffer for that deck. With that, I'll turn it back over to the board for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments from members of the board? Did everyone receive the update that Laura distributed this evening on the planting plan that was the zoning board wanted? Okay, thank you. Laura, did you have an opportunity to look at this and compare it with what you might recommend for in terms of planting?
Yes, so I actually had a conversation with Nick today, so we went through that. There was a different version that we took a look at, and this is the amended one. It includes more plantings than previously, so yes.
Okay. So as to the deck itself, you received a variance. They just were interested in these additional plantings, basically, correct?
That's correct, yep.
We do have a...
Thank you for being accommodating on that, and getting it back to as quickly as possible. It really is a front. I kind of like that double tiered look there. And like you said, the deck's going to come out to about the edge of that first one, right?
Yep, yep.
We do have a public hearing on this application, and I will remind the public if they wish to participate in that by phone. The number to call is area code 518-761-8225. Is there anyone in the audience that wanted to address the planning board on this application tonight? Not seeing anyone. Are there any written comments, Laura?
There are no, or wait, there are written comments.
Okay, thank you.
So this is addressed to Craig. This is just a note to let you know I am fine with the proposed project for the Renzi House on Cleverdale. I'm their abutting neighbor to the south, and this is Chris Martin. And then another one addressed to Craig. We totally support the Renzi deck, and this is from Anne Marie Mather. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Laura. I'm not receiving any phone calls, so we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Ask the board again if there are any questions or comments regarding this application. Okay, I guess we're ready for a motion then.
Motion to approve site plan 24-2021, Peter Yenzi, according to the draft resolution prepared by staff with the following. 1, waivers requested granted. 2, the approval is valid for 1 year from the date of approval. Applicant is responsible for requesting an extension of approval before the 1-year time frame has expired if the applicant has not yet applied for a building permit or commence significant site work. 3, adherence to the items outlined in the letter, follow-up letter sent with this resolution, including items A through K.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion?
Yes, so there is one discussion, so that we can include this planting plan. Can you include an L?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought, that's right, this is no resolution.
That's why I held back.
reading it.
That's all right. So,
Okay, and also amend this resolution to include L, updated planting plan is to be included in the site plan.
Right.
I'll second it again.
Thank you.
Okay, we have an amended motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Maria, can you call the vote for it, please?
Mr. Hunzinger?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Deeb?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes, you're all set.
Thank you very much.
You're
Hey,
welcome.
do you want these?
Yeah, I'll take them.
Well, he's going to have to amend them before he turns them in
Well,
anyway,
the
right?
amended plan is
Amended one.
on there.
I'll take the amendment.
Yeah,
Well, he doesn't have to amend it.
Oh, the one that we got, okay, I see what you're
That's
saying.
part of it,
yeah.
but he'll take it.
Just be an additional sheet.
You got it. Don't leave them out. He'll know how he'll cry.
The next section of our agenda is new business, and the first item is Robert and Peter Niemer, site plan 25-2021. Laura?
okay, so this application is to construct a 290-car parking lot for car lot storage. The application includes stormwater, lighting, and landscaping. And originally, there was a proposed building, so some materials that you may have received seem to reference a building on the site, and the applicant supplied updated information, which you have in your packet as well, that includes just the lot with no building on it. So you have information in your packet that may reference stormwater, but it shows information about a building. So apologize for making it more confusing, but at this point in time, they're not proposing a building on the site.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Board. Matt Huntington with Studio A, representing Robert and Peter Niemer, the Niemer Car Group. The parcel is located right next to the ARC building on Quaker Road, and believe it or not, it's one of the few parcels on there that isn't completely inundated with wetland. The parcel itself kind of goes up gradient away from Quaker Road, and you can see on the site plan, there are some wetlands to the north and the south of the proposed development. However, we're going to be maintaining a minimum of a 100-foot buffer from any development to those wetlands, so they won't be impacted by the project at all. The proposed development, as Laura stated, is really, it's an overflow parking lot for vehicle storage for the Niemer Car Group. One thing that isn't included on this site plan that will be is this is actually not going to be for public access, so both the entrance and exit will be gated. The building that was proposed was for material storage only. That's been removed. We may be back in front of the board at some point in time with a building. To allow our stormwater controls to function for the building as well as the parking lot, we've left that area as impervious as part of the calculation. So if we were to come back with a building of a similar footprint there, our stormwater is going to be effective to include that. From a stormwater perspective, the parking area has a few main center islands. You see the longer ones there. Those will be actually bioretention areas that a lot of the parking lot will drain into. They will be included as part of the landscape requirements, as well as they'll function as a stormwater device. Those will outflow to 2 infiltration basins on either side of the parking lot and a third basin down towards Quaker Road. We have received some comments regarding the stormwater from Chazen companies. I don't know if the board's seen any of those. There is nothing really there that causes a major cause for concern. It's the usual modeling approach, and it shouldn't affect any of the development. The landscaping that's been proposed is in accordance with the town standards. It's actually a little bit beyond that, what we have proposed between the islands and the buffering. Right now, the lot's wooded, so anything that isn't disturbed as part of site development for the parking lot or the stormwater is gonna remain, so there will be a buffer there for any of the parking areas. The lot itself is approximately 14.5 acres with an acre and a half of a National Grid easement essentially that runs through the center of the property parallel to Quaker Road. The development is going to be comprised of approximately 6 acres total. So we will be subject to the DEC speedies permit for stormwater activity related to construction. And there will be lighting, which is also proposed in accordance with the town standards, 20-foot maximum pole height, and there's a lighting drawing included in your package that shows no spill off on any adjacent properties. That I'll leave it open to any questions.
Okay, thank you. Questions from members of the board?
Yeah, I was shocked seeing this come in. The last thing we talked was maybe doing something up there at the Chrysler, Dodge Chrysler building. I thought they were going to expand it there.
Oh, I believe that we weren't involved in that project, but I thought that was in front of the board at one point in time.
Yeah, I thought it was. And then I saw this, and I said, well, so that's good. It's right in between both, and they'll be able to put the Fords, the Chevy, and
exactly
all the Neighbor Group cars there. So
that's their immediate need is for vehicle storage, which is why the building was pulled off, because in the interest of time, they have an issue with areas to park their inventory.
Yeah.
Well, the Chrysler building, it was an addition.
Yeah, it was addition, but I think they also talked about putting on some, they were thinking about moving some at one time, I thought.
They were going to tie into, I believe it was the Nudie building, and they didn't pursue that.
Right, that's what it was, yeah. Oh, good. I mean, this is right across from Garvey then, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Crushed stone, what are you gonna?
It's proposed to eventually be paved. Right now, they'll probably go in with a crushed stone subbase for the parking area, and eventually, because paving 3 acres of parking is not the least expensive endeavor, so.
But you're gonna put crushed,
Not nowadays.
From a stormwater perspective, however, crushed stone and the asphalt pavement are treated equally in terms of the calculations, so if they do decide to pave this at any point in time, it shouldn't affect anything on that.
Stormwater, is it gonna run off the property?
No, it won't run off the property. Well, I mean, it eventually makes its way off the property, but our proposed development will mitigate the stormwater runoff from the development to levels that are equal to or less than the existing conditions, and they're pretty significantly less than the existing conditions. The 3 infiltration basins, there's a lot of room on this site, being 14 acres, so we were able to design a pretty robust stormwater system that really controls almost all the runoff. But naturally, as they overflow, there will be some leaving the site, but it'll be at a drastically reduced rate than the existing conditions.
All right, because I'm just looking at the secret, and number 17 says, I know we haven't addressed it yet, but.
Right.
It says, will stormwater discharge flow to adjacent properties, and you have yes. Mark down.
Yeah, I mean, that, again, it's kind of a murky question, because yes, eventually stormwater does leave every site at some point, otherwise you're building a giant.
You've made arrangements for it to stay on the property, from what you just said.
Yeah, it does stay on, but I mean, in the event that we have some 500-year rain event, I mean, there is outflow that comes from the basins.
I just want to make sure we're clarifying.
Yeah.
It was one of those yes, nos. you know?
Exactly.
And if he says no, then we could have busted him on a no, you know what I mean? So,
it's a loaded question.
I just not sure it was for clarification. That's
Yeah.
no, that's fine. No, you're actually right.
We also have a public hearing on this application. This is for Robert and Peter Niemer, site plan 25-2021, and I'll remind the public if they wish to call in and comment. The number to call is area code 518-761-8225. And Laura, are there any written comments?
There are no written comments.
Okay, thank you.
So, you mentioned the lighting plan.
Yes.
The plan that's in our package, I thought maybe it was just the one I downloaded I couldn't read, but you can't read that one either. So I just want to make sure that the actual intensity meets town code.
Yeah, I think.
You mentioned the height, which is
Laura
one of
can
the.
bring it up. You know, nowadays with the LED features, it's not like the old incandescent
Right.
one, or,
Yep.
you know, so, I mean, the intensity of light has been, you know, reduced significantly on almost everything you get from these manufacturers now. It's not, you're not looking at 10-foot candles directly underneath it and it fades to nothing, you know,
Yeah,
5
right.
feet away.
Has stuff to read.
Are you
Yeah,
proposing
no,
any
you
light on the
can't.
storage building?
The storage building's not proposed, so if we were gonna come back, if the storage building makes its way back, we'll be back in front of the board for that. But right now, we're only proposing a parking area.
If you can read that, Laura?
Can I ask a question? Describe the function of the lot, if you would. Is this simply to store cars and then
Correct.
transport them over to the sales area?
Correct. It's an old lot.
Did you consider one way in and one way out for the driveway?
That is what is proposed right now. That is what's proposed, one way in and one way out.
I didn't see that. Thank you. That's great.
So there's no working on vehicles?
No,
No.
And is it mainly new vehicles, or is there old, you know, there's gotta be some concern about
Oh, wow,
gas
you can
and
be. Look at-
oil.
I'm not sure of the storage intent there, but I would say, you know, I mean, it's whatever they have. I don't know. The age of the vehicles they have in the lot, I don't think is,
I guess I still have a concern, you know, it's still close to the wetlands, and that's an awful lot of potential of spillage of gasoline, oil.
We can condition, I think we can condition if there be no repair work or maintenance work on the vehicles that are in storage.
Okay.
yeah.
That'll work, right?
Yeah.
As I said, that's not
it'll-
proposed.
It'll work, but I don't see how,
You know what
I don't see how they could work on cars that are in there. It's just a storage lot, unless they get crawl under it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, that's
I
not
don't
what the
think that's
purpose
their
is.
intent, but it wouldn't
I mean,
hurt to
I'll
add
put it in
that.
there, in there.
You know, who
Also,
works on a vehicle in his driveway, I mean,
but you
work
know,
on vehicles anywhere.
and you also got Garvey across the street, the same situation.
Now, with this lot, though, I'm gonna say there's the potential, with no eyes on it, you could store an RV or a boat there. I know that's not what the intent is, but there's enough land there. For instance, if you drive around Nemur right now on the service bays, looks like an old RV that's been sitting there for years. And, you know, I would hate to see that
That's a good point.
start to crop up here. And I do have one other question too, and maybe it's just my eyes. So in the northeast with our snow removal, where are the planned, where's the planned snow removal? Where are you going to
Yeah, snow
store that?
It should be off to the west. It's an area where they can essentially push it off the end of the parking lot on the left side of your screen. I believe that was on the layout plan, but, which would have been drawing L 1.0.
Writing is so small. I can't read.
So Michael, on your comment about the storage, are you suggesting that we condition this on passenger vehicle and trucks only?
Yeah, I think, and I don't know how we would term it, but I think that they should be usable vehicles. So, a vehicle.
Well, the only, I would say that if this is for storage, there could be unregistered vehicles on the site that are not yet sold, they wouldn't be licensed, they wouldn't be insured,
They're all unregistered.
but,
All the vehicles are gonna be unregistered.
well, we don't know. They might be in storage waiting for repair, they might be customer vehicles, it's hard to say, but,
But I guess, and you all can help me out with this, but, so if there's a wreck that's being serviced at your other location and you just want to get it off your primary lot, and now you've got that wreck that's going to be stored here. Now, which falls into one of Jamie's concerns, is if we start looking at wrecks, you could have oil leakage, gas leakage. So I would like it reserved for new and used cars that are truly viable, that are going to be for sale, not for long-term storage.
I don't think there would be any opposition to that from the plan.
Yeah, I don't think that vehicles that are severely damaged are not going to be retained by the dealer. They're going to fend that off to a subcontractor that's either going to, have the insurance company total the vehicle, or it's going to be repaired. But that wouldn't be, I don't anticipate that would be done.
No, I wouldn't expect it, but if
You
you
wouldn't
don't have
expect
it
it, but
spelled
the
out.
potential is still there.
Yeah.
And Mr. Dixon's already stated, there's a vehicle that's been sitting on the lot for years. What's to say we don't just, out of sight, it's just
Yeah.
kind of park that over there for a while, and then it's, it doesn't happen. It
Okay.
doesn't get taken away.
So how about condition that only functional passenger cars and trucks?
That still leaves it open. You can have a jalopy that's
It's
functional.
hard to define it.
It's a tough wording. I'm trying
Yeah.
to figure out how to word this right now.
Well, we got the right guy for the job.
So Chris had asked, while he's wording that, so Chris had asked about the lighting, and I had it up there, and then I pulled up that code section. So automobile lots have an average lot for 20. If we looked at these lights, they were down to like 1.2 around, so I'd be surprised if this went above 5. But that is something that we could request, is the average average for the site. If you look at this is all at 0.3 and 0.2, and we have something in our code that talks about automobile lots at being at 20.
Well, those are for cars that are for sale, where customers go. This is not, this is
not,
really,
so-
yeah,
Yeah, it's not open to the public.
yeah.
But it doesn't differentiate between sales.
Oh, sure,
It just says
okay.
the word automobile lot, so,
So they're well within the code, is what you're saying.
correct. But, I mean, if you want there to be less foot candle on average, I'm trying to think of one of the ones that was in the code here. So a standard commercial parking lot is 2.5.
Yeah.
So I, just,
This is
Maybe
probably
you
gonna be less
scroll
than
down
that.
the page, Laura, you can. kinda
there an
where it's
average?
centered. Yeah, right to your right where it's like 2.6. Those black dots are the actual light fixtures, so directly under it would be the maximum foot candles. But again, as Laura said, they don't really exceed 3 or so.
Yeah, right. Okay. I'm
Were
comfortable.
there any written comments, Laura?
There were no written comments.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and close the public hearing then on this application. We do have also a secret resolution under the SECRA Act to consider. I know we talked about concerns about waste products from vehicles, and we did add a condition of no repair or maintenance. Are there any other environmental concerns that people have that we should consider under SECRA? Okay, I guess we're ready for a SECRA resolution, right?
I want to ask about the lighting. So we're okay with the lighting then that's proposed?
So it doesn't exceed the code, but if that's really up to the board. Lighting is a discussion item with the board. At this point, I would look at it as a code, and it says that for auto lots, it says 20. This applicant has light poles that are at 20-foot height, and the max around them is like 0.3 or 0.1, I can't, sorry. The highest one around the poles is up to like 2.6. So I guess I don't quite know what a good example of that would be. Like, what do we, for our
You
area?
got to compare it to other lots.
Well, it's tough to compare it to other lots because it's, most of our lots, even Subaru down the way, it has angled lighting that this board approved, and,
And most car lots are open to the public, too.
correct.
You know. And the other thing, this is a pretty isolated spot.
gated.
But it's dark, so any illumination's gonna come right at you.
We have, to that point, maintained a pretty healthy buffer around the site. Again, you know, it's the total site between National Grid and the Nemers property is 16 acres. We're disturbing 6, and the parking area itself is only about 3 acres centralized. So all the trees that are there surrounding it are gonna remain outside of the disturbance limits.
And I'm good with that.
Any other environmental concerns that we should discuss regarding seeker resolution?
We're okay with that one. Okay, now we're all set?
Yep.
Okay, motion to grant a negative declaration for, I gotta put the, for, you're gonna have it there, for site plan 25-2021, Robert and Peter Niemer. As per the resolution prepared by staff, Part 2 of the short EAF has been reviewed and completed by the planning board.
Okay, thank you. We have a seeker resolution. Do we have a second?
Second it.
Any further discussion on secret? Maria, can you call the vote for us, please?
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Teague?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Hunsinger?
Yes.
Mr. Favor?
Yes. Okay, so now we move on to the site plan. I know we have, we're going to have an additional condition on the maintenance of vehicles on this, at this location. And you were working on a condition for the vehicle type to be stored. Do you have that? Okay, why don't you, if you would go ahead and read us that.
Just the condition.
All right, well, first of all, it's gonna be, L's gonna be no mechanical or maintenance to be performed on, no mechanical repairs or maintenance to be performed on the property.
Okay,
Next one's gonna be a little tricky,
that's fine.
all right?
Work it out.
The way I would it is only properly maintained vehicles intended for sale to be stored on the property. And I think that's what they intend, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I believe that's the intent.
I mean, that's the way I see it, because they've got so many cars and so many different lots that I gotta believe they're just gonna take the ones that they're gonna, and they're gonna be shuffled quite a bit. Gonna go in, I don't think they're gonna stay there long. I think they're gonna go in there for a short period, they're gonna get them out, either wholesale them.
Well, they certainly hope so.
or get it back to the lots. So I think this works.
I'm okay with that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's Certainly.
Yeah,
it's
I like the
Because they do have plenty of other storage as well. If they had a vehicle that
Yeah.
didn't fit that description, they could put it on one of their other,
But it also prevents them from bringing a wreck over there and setting it there,
right.
okay?
Right.
And you can put in, say, in parentheses, the intent is not to have a wreck. So that way, in the, someone's evaluating that
But-
resolution in the future, they clearly understand your intent. You're going to word the resolution the way you've said it, and then indicate the idea is to not have wrecks on the property. So, I don't quite know how.
Who's gonna check on it? That's.
So we have code compliance, and if someone were to go by there and observe that there was some beat-up trailer that didn't seem to fit the character of what the resolution is, and they called our office, we would have to go out and inspect that complaint.
Thank you. Go over the National Grid and get on right now.
The other thing that just crossed my mind is that there is nothing in here, and I don't know if it's too restrictive, but we've talked about RVs, other vehicles that are, I think we have to be careful here. I mean, it's private property and they can,
Well, it is hard because, again, the intent behind it was to just make sure that they're active vehicles, they're actively being sold, they're moving on and off the lot, not a RV that's going to be parked there for 3-4 years. But in reality, we could start selling RVs down the road. Maybe they want to store them, and we wouldn't want to restrict them.
Well, if they're new RVs, I don't
Yeah,
think that would be a problem. I'm just
Used,
saying,
slightly used.
you don't want to, we don't want the property to turn into a permanent storage vehicle, property for vehicles that aren't going to be used.
Well, I think these spaces to the business are going to be quite valuable, and I don't think.
I
that they-
agree.
I don't think that they would just put an old RV out there to take up valuable.
Yeah.
You're talking the one at Niemer Ford there, out there on the back side of the shop,
Yes, yeah.
okay? It's a break room.
Oh, that's what they use for a break room, okay.
All right, so I'm gonna,
Works for 'em.
the last condition, M, will be only properly maintained vehicles intended for sale will be stored on the property with the intention of not storing non-usable vehicles or damaged automobiles on the property.
Okay,
with you?
I think that's reasonable. I mean, you know, based on the storage that they have aside from their break room, it doesn't appear that driving by either
I know what
facility,
the intention
there's
Yeah.
anything in disrepair.
I mean, I know how busy they are, but we can use verbiage all day to try and figure this out, and we never cover everything.
Right. Yeah.
With the enforcement issues that we have, I think the main reason for adding this is just to communicate our wishful intent for the purpose. And I think that your condition does that very well.
And I know Robert and Peter, and I've known them for years, and they're reputable people. They like to have things neat and clean, so. All right, are we okay?
We are.
I am.
Motion to approve site plan 25-2021, Robert and Peter Niemer. According to the draft resolution prepared by staff with the following. 1, waivers requested granted. 2, the approval is valid for 1 year from the date of approval. Applicant is responsible for requesting an extension of approval before the 1-year time frame has expired if the applicant has not yet applied for a building permit or commenced significant site work. 3, adherence to the items outlined in the follow-up letter sent with this resolution, including items A through K, and L, no mechanical repairs or maintenance work to be performed on the property. And M, only properly maintained vehicles intended for sale to be stored on the property with the intention of not storing non-usable vehicles or damaged automobiles on the property.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Any further discussion on the motion? Maria, can you call the vote for us, please?
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. D?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Hunsinger?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes, you're all set.
Here you are.
Hey,
You want to take these?
if you're gonna recycle them, that's all we're gonna do.
Okay.
Unless you'd like me to take them.
No, let me check.
Well, you gotta hand in like, 22 copies. Okay.
I'm not going anywhere because we're the next as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm glutton for punishment.
That's right. Well, you're earning your money tonight.
So the next item is a discussion item, Foothills Builders Subdivision Sketch Plan 20-2020. Laura?
I need to recuse myself.
Okay.
Now, do I just leave since it's the last one, or do I hang out and come back for the adjournment?
I would suggest that you can sit in the audience only because you are a potential neighbor to this.
I can be a
You would
public
act as a
person.
resident.
All right.
So just so that folks understand, she does have a potential house in that area, so, or nearby.
Yeah, I own property on it.
Okay.
So in the, previously, we looked at 19 lots, and the board gave some guidance to the applicant to take a look at what the house sizes were and what type of homes were going to be placed on the site. So the applicant provided some outlays of that house and some elevations, and it's been reduced from 19 to 18 lots at this point.
Okay, thank you.
So, Matt Huntington again, representing Foothills Builders here for Jenkins. As Laura said, we presented this to the board, I think, mid to late summer of 2020, and we got some feedback based on the type of development that would go there. So we've included some of the standard home footprints that Foothills Builders puts together. We've also taken it a little step further and addressed some preliminary stormwater calculations to make sure everything is going to function out of the site. We also went out at the southwestern corner of the property. There are some Army Corps jurisdictional wetlands there. We have coordinated with the Army Corps. They have to make a site visit and just verify. We had those flagged by North Country Ecological Services. Our development is going to stay away from anything on the wetland area. It's a small portion, but I figured I'd flag that just so the board is aware of it. So the subdivision that we're proposing, you know, we're going to have to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals because we're looking for a density variance here. And how we came up with a number for our density variance is we took the average acreage of the properties around and we kind of looked at that and went a little bit above that. We're proposing somewhere around anywhere between 0.7 and 1 acres per lot. In addition to taking the average density around, what we did is we performed some test pits on the site in 2020, earlier in the year, to verify soil conditions, looking for anything that's essentially going to restrict development. And what we found were some excellent soil infiltrative capacities for both wastewater and stormwater, which helps support this type of development. Additionally, the neighbors to the north, the Rainbow Trail subdivision, they're significantly smaller lots than we're proposing here. And aside from the elephant in the room that I will get to shortly, there don't seem to be any environmental concerns with that subdivision. Now, we are aware that the landfills to the north of the site have recently been declared a Superfund site. So prior to coming back to the board, Foothills Builders went out and drilled a few potable water wells to serve as test wells. And then based on the results of the testing on those, they can also service, they can act as potable water wells for any proposed development there. So these were tested, and they were tested for the 1,4-dioxane. Both wells came back below the maximum contamination limits for 1,4-dioxane, pretty substantially below what the limits were. So our understanding is that with the Superfund site, the DEC is now stepping in as well as the Department of Health. So our anticipation is that the situation would certainly be improving out there, and we have a baseline data showing that the site itself has not been subject to a groundwater contamination issue. The wells were drilled proximal. One was at the beginning of the proposed subdivision roadway near Jenkinsville Road, and the second well was drilled on the back side of the property near where the proposed cul-de-sac is. With that, we figured that was pretty good spacing to kind of get across the site and get an idea on what was going on with the groundwater in that area. As far as I know, this site specifically is not included in part of the Superfund site. The DEC mapping I have seen is limited to the plume around the landfill areas north of the site. So we feel that with that knowledge, we would like to continue to pursue a development here. So we wanted to come in front of the board to get some feedback on it prior to obviously submitting for a site plan review and zoning variance.
So how close are the properties that did test for the contaminants?
Well, that's an evolving number.
Okay.
So they're still testing. At the time that we have been coordinating with the DEC and the Department of Health, we've been speaking to them. At the time, they were approximately a quarter mile or so away from the site.
The key word there was evolving.
Yeah.
Certainly.
That's the thing we gotta keep an eye on.
But again, as we stated, we have a baseline value for the contamination levels, and with the DEC stepping in as a Superfund site, it's actually beneficial to the development because something is being done now.
Right.
Well, let's say you go through with this, and a year or two down the road, something happens with contamination starts to spread. Do you have a plan, a contingency plan in place, or do you?
Well, that would be, I think we would be coordinating with the plan that was becoming in place with the DEC and the Department of Health. You know, I mean, this thing's not going to be constructed in the next month or so here, and it's certainly not going to be constructed, I don't think, prior to having some semblance of a plan that the DEC has put forward. The other thing we could offer is additional testing of the wells as time progresses in between now and as we get through the site plan and zoning process.
I think that would be prudent.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I don't think, no one here wants to propose selling a site with contaminated water, and Foothills certainly doesn't, and we certainly don't want to represent a project
Well, it's-
of that nature. So just due to the time frame and how long it takes to get something like this approved, we wanted to continue to keep the ball rolling and, you know, provided no extenuating circumstances, we'd like to continue to move through the process.
There were certain contaminants noted in the paper that DEC was testing for.
Yeah, it was 1,4-dioxane is the contaminant that was above the maximum
I thought
contamination.
it was PFOA and PFOS, those kinds of.
Well, PFOA is, from my understanding, a similar compound, but not the same as 1,4-dioxane. So we were tested for what, we tested for what was above what was found to be above the maximum contamination.
How far west of the site is the closest contaminated well?
That I cannot answer off the top of my head. We'd have to get back to the DEC because, as I said, they've tested more wells since our last conversation with them, and then we could accurately measure from there.
So you did test wells. How deep did you go?
Perhaps Foothills can answer.
One was about 100 feet, one was about 150 feet.
Oh, okay. So it clearly wasn't groundwater. Did you test the groundwater too?
There actually wasn't evidence of groundwater within the test pits that we dug down to 6 or so feet.
Uh-huh.
The test wells obviously go down either bedrock or a gravel well type area until they actually hit a vein.
Uh-huh.
So those test wells, were they on the northern border?
Yeah, so there's one test well, if you're looking at your site plan, right adjacent to Jenkinsville Road on that first lot as you pull in. And then another one on the southern edge of the cul-de-sac, which is lot 11 in that area.
Yeah, so I was out there coming down Jenkinsville Road, and I saw that well. I said, boy, that's awfully far down, but I just thought it was DEC testing. I said, oh, at least they're coming down, because you're actually on that south side of the property. It was far, it was farmland there, so.
Yeah, exactly.
But you didn't test the north side, closest to the.
Yeah, he's got one
Yeah,
back
we
there.
have one
He's
on
got one back there
Jenkinsville
at
on
11.
the north side, and then the furthest one by the cul-de-sac is on the south side, so we kind of split. And each of these wells as they go in, obviously, as part of the development, it's gonna be tested as well as the existing ones throughout the approval processes.
You just have to be extra careful here.
Oh, certainly.
I mean,
On the plans, it shows, so there's still a barn on the property? It hasn't been removed. And it's showing that there's still a well behind the barn. Has that well been tested?
As far as I know, there wasn't actually access to draw water out of that well. We did look at testing that well, but I believe the pitless adapter and pump have been removed. So that's actually, obviously, in the interest of cost, we are gonna attempt to test that well first as opposed to drilling 2 new wells. But
Yeah, that would have been cheaper.
certainly.
So do you have specific questions for us?
Yeah, really what we're looking for is recommendations on the density as we go in front of the zoning board. We feel from a site plan perspective and environmental perspective, well and groundwater Superfund site outstanding, that this does meet the criteria of the intended development here.
now, we can play devil's advocate here, and we get a lot of projects before us that require a variance for lot size. And it seems like every project that comes up this is what we're facing. And I don't know, I don't know how the rest of the board feels. I'm not saying I feel it, but you might encounter some resistance because of the size of, I'm just saying as a board. But I know Foothill Builders, Joey has done this for a while, and he does a really nice, clean project. All his projects look good. They're done tastefully, they're done well, except for that first one, we tore all the trees down.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
But, but I just think this is something you have to keep in your mind
Yeah.
when you're doing this, so, just to bring it up front.
Yep.
Did you, in laying out the subdivision, Did you look at any other option than a straight road into a cul-de-sac and all of the houses line up on both sides?
So because of the rectilinear structure of the lot, it doesn't leave a lot of room for curvature around the road. You end up losing lots and you kind of cram some corners in there to try to create any sort of loop with the roadway. It actually would encroach on the lot size even smaller than what's proposed here if we were to try to kind of make a curvature in the roadway or some sort of loop there.
Now, this is pretty similar to his previous design, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah, what we've done is we just advanced it further in terms of preliminary stormwater calculations. We actually looked at some of the houses that would be on there as opposed to just rectangles on it. We ended up removing a lot, so we had more room for the stormwater management features. So those are the main changes since it was here last. Roadway-wise, it's exactly the same as it was the first time that we were here.
Any other comments or feedback for the applicant?
I do have one, Mr. Chairman. So I thought, in our code books, it talks about developments and pretty much plan to access. So if another development should go in behind it, that there is property set aside for connectivity to that. And I was just trying to pull up on the map there, but I would think maybe, I guess you'd almost call it a forever wild, but that would be an improper term, between lots 10 and 11, that there be a parcel left wide enough to accommodate a road, should there be future development. Can't see anything on my phone.
Right, I agree that there's typically a connectivity requirement between commercial lots, and there's no reason why to bring it up for this one, only because if you look at that, and I don't know who owns this lot to the east, or what its future intent is, but the idea of being able to connect to that, there's no reason why not to bring it up now. So.
Thank you. And strike that.
Okay. Anything else? Do you have any other questions for us?
No, I mean, this is essentially what we were looking for before proceeding.
Okay. I guess you're all set then.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. That concludes our agenda for this evening. Is there any other business before the board tonight?
Table.
Yeah, do we need to do a resolution for naming?
Oh, did we not do that?
No, we didn't.
Okay, thank you for reminding me. I guess I did say we would do it according to the agenda, didn't I? All right, so we have the next application under new business has not yet been tabled. Native Development Associates LLC subdivision preliminary stage 5-2021 and subdivision final stage 6-2021 is going to be tabled to the May 18th planning board meeting. And there was a public hearing announced for this evening, so we will go ahead and open that, and that will remain open pending the application actually being heard presumably next month. Does anyone have any comments or questions about that tabling? Do you have anything additional to offer, Laura?
They still had some engineering issues to resolve, and in this case, I think that's a good idea, and so they've requested to be tabled.
Okay, thank you.
They don't need more submissions, Laura?
No, they're hoping to get an engineering sign-off.
Okay, so we don't have to put a date in for that. Motion to table site plan subdivision preliminary stage 5-2021 and final stage 6-2021 native at 24 Native Drive to the May 18th Town of Queensbury Planning Board meeting.
Okay, we have a motion, a tabling motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion, any further discussion on that tabling? Maria, can you call the vote for us, please?
Ms. White?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Hunsinger,
Yes.
McGowan,
Yes.
Dixon,
Yes.
McKee,
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes. That does conclude our agenda for this evening. Is there any other business before the board tonight? If not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.